Hello, my name is Ivory Toldson. I'm an associate professor at Howard University, senior research analyst for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and editor-in-chief of the Journal of Negro Education. I recently did a seminar on my policy report called Breaking Barriers, and I'm here to respond to a question from that seminar. I'm going to read the question in its entirety. The question reads, "Hello. First of all, thank you for the information you presented. I found it very helpful and insightful. I have a question I'm hoping you can help me with. I'm working at a predominantly upper middle class high school in Iowa. We have a very small African American population, I'm guessing about 10%, and most of the students are on the free reduced lunch program and have moved into the district within the last 5 years from Chicago. We have a difficult time keeping these students from dropping out, especially the young men. I'm searching for ways to reach out to these students more effectively. Do you have any strategies I can pass on to our teachers and counselors that might be helpful in keeping these students connected to school? I like your information about the importance of teacher-student relationships. I'm wondering how I can foster that in our building as well. Thank you so much, Laura." All right, thank you, Laura. This is a very interesting and intriguing situation. When I read it, I can't help but feel a lot of compassion for the young black kids at your school. As I read it, I think about how much anxiety they might feel being in a situation like that. I live here in Washington, D.C., and we have a couple of affluent black neighborhoods. We also have some poor areas not too far from us in West Virginia that's predominantly white, and I can only imagine if a few of those white students were coming to one of the affluent black schools, and the type of alienation they might feel, the type of ridicule, honestly, they might get from some of their peers who don't really understand their situation, don't understand what it's like to grow up in Appalachia, what it's like to not have the means to pay for your own lunch. So they probably feel a good deal of alienation. So I have a lot of compassion for them. And I'm not sure if your teachers and counselors feel the same way about them, but that's the kind of compassion they're going to need to really understand their situation. It would be very important for them not to look at these students as students who may have a opportunity because of where they are, rather than a limitation because they are not in the mainstream of what your school seems to be about. So that said, there were a lot of findings in Breaking Barriers that you can use to build strategies. Now, I have to say that what Breaking Barriers has are more than 20 research findings that connect certain external characteristics to student success. So the first thing you have to do is to really take those findings and ask yourself, do the black students at my school have that? So as far as quality of life, do they have that? As far as healthy teacher-student relationships, like you mentioned, do they have that? And do they have a social and emotional environment that's conducive to their education? So you're almost going to have to use the findings as a checklist to do an analysis of whether or not the students at your school have everything that it takes for them to succeed. And if they don't, how do they get that? Now, one thing I have to be quite honest about is I don't know your situation well enough to really give you a magic bullet on how to make your situation work. It's kind of like if a doctor said that I had too much cholesterol in my diet, he or she could tell me what I need to eat, but if that doctor is all the way in Iowa, they can't tell me exactly where to buy that food from, and they can't really tell me how to restructure my lifestyle so that that diet could be implemented. So I say that to tell you is that there are some limitations on how much I can help you from where I'm sitting right now. What will need to happen is for you all to take the findings of that report, come together, and build strategies that work for your school. And I think that could be done. but it does have to be a concerted effort. It's not anything that you're going to be able to do on your own and get everybody to buy in. There's going to have to be a committee put together at your school that really analyzes these findings, determines what your black students have right now, what their assets are, and what their weaknesses are, what they don't have, and what are the obstacles. Do what's called a SWOT analysis, so you can really determine what they need in that school. Now, the last thing that I want to caution you about is you talked about the high dropout rates, and you only have 10%. So that's very concerning. What I'm curious about is what percent of that 10% is actually dropping out. Is it half? Is it 3%? Is it most of them? That's very important to know. If it's most of them, then there's probably some school environment issues and some policies that you all have in place that's putting them behind, and we would have to really delve deeply into your situation to know what that is. If it's under half, then what I would suggest that you do is to start with the ones that are doing the right thing, the ones that are getting through school, and try to figure out how are they able to adjust, and see if you can spread that, see if whatever they're using, whatever tools they're using, is something that you all can use to your benefit to better the experiences of the other kids at your school. A lot of times what we do when we work with a situation like that is we focus solely on the ones who are underachieving, the ones who are dropping out, and we tend to ignore the ones that are staying in the game. Really the opposite works best, where you look at the ones that are doing the right thing, use them as ambassadors, use them as your leaders, and get that type of success to spread instead of being too narrowly focused on the failures. So I hope that my response was somewhat helpful to you. You can feel free to contact me directly. My email address is itoldson, that's ITOLDSON, at howard.edu. So feel free to contact me directly. I have a sense that I haven't told you anything that you're going to be able to just implement, and that's really by design. I do think that you need to work together. You need to come together with some other people at your school and really take the report. And I'm not sure if you got a copy of the report or just saw the presentation, but the report is available online, PDF format. So you really need to take those findings, take each individual key indicator, and do a thorough analysis of what's going on at your school, and develop some strategies that work for Iowa, which I don't have enough information about Iowa to give you specific strategies for your school, because there is no strategy that works across the board. There's only aspects and attributes about their experiences that seem to generalize across all campuses. But again, that's laid out for you in the report. All right, thank you.